What's happening? How's it going, man?
Good, bro. You?
Apologies for being late.
Wow.
Bro, my legs are absolutely wrecked. You know, when you're just laying there or you're sitting there and you're like, I can still feel so much blood in my quads.
Well, no, I've had it before, not currently. RIP me, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I need a light on.
5 sets of pendulum squat has done me in.
Hey, I might just go.
5 sets.
Oh, the podcast off with horrific Wi-Fi for me. Good stuff.
Oi,
Sorry,
John,
Jack.
with the matching Monster Factory. Jeez.
Oh yeah, bloody hell. Should I put mine on?
Nah, Greg's is good. Actually, can you
Greg's
take the shirt off, please, Luke? Just take. Can you just take it off?
Bro, if you're gonna sexually harass me, like at least be able to string a sentence together.
Oh, sorry, bro. I'm just very nervous talking to guys. Very nervous.
Fuck's sake. How's your week been anyway?
John, go first. I can't be asked to talk yet.
How has the week gone thus far? This week, it's been a busy one.
Busy one still.
Uni's been consuming a lot of. It has been a very busy one still. Yeah, just a lot of uni work going on at the minute, trying to squeeze in training.
Respect, man. He's still on that grind, still on that hustle. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so
Has to be done.
Exactly, man.
As we know. What about you, Jack?
Oh, I was going to ask you first. Yeah, man, it's been good. Business is moving in the right direction. Training's going all good. Food is a little bit horrific at the moment, but training's going so well that I'm going to try and muscle through it for as long as possible. So we'll just see how it goes.
You mean you're struggling?
I am. Yeah.
Appetite?
I am struggling with appetite. Yeah.
Madness.
I know. 4.3.
What's happened to the appetite?
I don't know, man. 4.3k apparently has just ended me. Yeah. Although my homemade tortilla chips are banging. Literally take a tortilla, rip it up, air fry it, bang. Mate, I could easily get in like 1,000 calories plus of that, like multiple times a day. So I've just been living off that.
Luke, bro, they look so dead. I'm sorry.
Bro, shut up.
It looks awful.
Oh, why does everyone say that, bro? Nah.
They just look like so crusty.
To be fair, I never show my food because I should show my clients food instead because they cook better than me. I just can't be asked to make food look nice because either I'm dieting and anything I'll eat will be amazing, or I'm bulking and I hate food. So even if you put like the best food in the world on my plate, I'd still somehow chunder afterwards. So
yeah, but that's just a vicious like cycle because if you're looking at your food and you're like, this doesn't look appetizing at all, and then you're not hungry, like
I don't really think that. I just feel neutral towards it. The only time I just be like, this is okay, this is fine. Like as long as I don't hate it. Although eggs and cheese recently, if I'm near eggs and cheese, they're fucking disgusting. I don't want them near me. Like my girlfriend had a cheese omelette and I literally had to leave the room. I was like, nah, you're all right. Grim.
I remember I had like eggs every day for breakfast for like a year, undoing the work of vegans everywhere. And then after a while, every time I smelt a fried egg, I was just like,
yeah, trust.
I'm still the same with ketchup because I used to cover it in ketchup.
Ketchup, I allow ketchup. Luke, how has your week been? Talking about ketchup.
What have I been doing, mate? What have I been doing? Uni is getting very, very hectic with it coming to the end of the term, group projects and that sort of thing. I actually had a hilarious thing the other day, right? So this guy in my group was like, oh, sorry, I didn't manage to do all my work because I've got 2 other group projects. I'm like, yeah, so do I, bro. Like, what are you talking about? You get me?
That's fucking jokes. Honestly.
Is my Wi-Fi bad? Or was the story not funny? Okay.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's just like stuff like that all the time.
Mate, honestly, people like on the same uni course as you
Okay.
being like, I don't have the time. I'm like, well, literally on the same uni course, man. I don't know, like, I don't know where's your time going? Rinsing it at the pub
And it's
unnecessarily.
the same people that just don't show up to lectures, and then they're like, "What are we supposed to be doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe you should go to the lectures.
like
Maybe that would help."
but you're paying £9 a year. The lectures do help. Some of them are shit, don't get me
Wow.
wrong, but like most of them, I don't even. It depends on the course, I guess.
Bro, I worked it out. Each lecture is like £50. It's wild.
I don't know if you boys have come across this type of character at uni, but they can say they can just figure it out off of what the title is.
Oh yeah.
So let's say we asked someone about running economy, and he had no clue. But prior to this, he said he could probably figure out anything that is required of him, despite not turning up to any lectures, any seminars, any labs.
Yeah.
He's 100% certain that he could figure it out on his ones.
Oh my God.
It's those people that think that education is the same since primary school. You just get older, and it just like that education stays the same, like the same level. They're like, yeah, bro, I'll just wait till the test. I'll just figure it out. I'll just cram a little bit. I'll just whatever. Doesn't work like that, man. University level.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not quite the same, is it? It's not
Look,
quite
so fucking rotund, man. Who actually let me get this fat? I might quit bodybuilding.
Yeah, you are quite fat, to be fair.
I'm quite morbid.
Mini cuts still. Right. Let's not body shame Jack. Actually, that's probably.
No, it's calm. I can diet whenever I want. It's like
Positivity in the chat.
It's okay being fat if you made yourself fat and you know that you can unfat yourself. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. How long since your last mini cut, actually?
How long? How long since? Oh my God, I don't fucking know. I don't know, like 25 weeks, probably, something like that, if I had to guess.
That's kind of mad.
Yeah.
What am I, like 6 weeks?
Yeah, but how long between your last one? Although your appetite packed in, to be fair, so that was a short
Oh,
one.
the last one was only like 18 weeks or something like that. The last
push. Catabolic, bro. Grim.
Yeah.
0 progress gained.
Yeah, man. I'm actually smaller now.
I spent 18 years in a surplus, bro, and I gained a gram of muscle. It's very slow, bro. So advanced.
Fuck off. I need to start swearing on this podcast, honestly. Just by default response, because you just have no idea what you're talking about, and it just annoys me.
When there's air, I just fill it with nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are a nonce, to be fair. I agree.
Whoa!
Right, anyway.
I'm going to get cancelled, bro, for doing nothing. I haven't done anything. My girlfriend's older than me. What is this?
So we were chatting behind the scenes, everybody, and we were thinking that we want to try and make these a little bit more educational rather than just the standard me abusing Jack, Jack abusing me, and John just sitting there and laughing. So, we're going to try and do like a little topic, like 15-20 minute discussion about that, and then some normal bullshit as well, so you don't get
still be abused. Don't worry, everyone. We're not going to go boring on you.
Yeah, Jack will say something stupid while we're discussing the topic, and then I'll abuse him. It will be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, topic for this week.
What is it? I've forgotten.
I
check the group chat.
No. The only idea that I came up with, which isn't a very good idea, but maybe it will help some people, is how we go about like setting up a training program. Like if you're starting from, we have this information, how do we decide what is best for that person?
Okay. What we should do is we should go around step by step. So John, me, Luke, step 1, step 2, step 3, and we have to, as a trio, come up with like a method between the 3 of us. Because if we all say a method, it's going to be like 40 steps.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
John, your first step. To be fair, you can kind of do it in any order, I guess. But like there'll be a kind of a first step. What's your first step?
First step in setting up a training program.
The pressure's
is this straight from being onboarded? You've got all the information.
Yeah.
So
you've got absolutely everything you need to work out how to set it up.
I would say frequency. I mean, that's kind of my first setup to any sort of training program. Just establish how many days you have, what time you kind of have to work with. I think from this as well, this kind of sets up the split as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, depending on what point they're at, whether it be beginner, intermediate, whatever that might be. But having the amount of days, that you can work with kind of sets up the split in itself, and you can kind of go from there.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, that's where sort of I was going to start off is, okay, how many days can you realistically train? And then you've also got to take into account how experienced the person is. Like if they're fairly new to the gym, do they need to be training 6 days a week? Probably not.
Yeah.
So you've sort of got a bit more of a gauge there. And as people get a little bit more committed to things, they're more open to committing more of their time to training as well. But yeah, I definitely think starting off with how many days do we have available? And then that starts to inform the split. Because a big thing I see is I want to do, say, push-pull legs. So I have to make this split fit rather than a training split is just a way to manage your volume, your frequency, your intensity, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, like once you know how many days a week you are, the split just kind of comes to you from there. It's going to be different. From here, I feel like the process depends on the client. I would say probably choosing like which exercises are going to be in and the order. I think that's probably the next step I would go for. So are there any standout exercises that I really want in there? And which ones am I going to be putting at the start? That's probably where I'd start. Like across every single session, what am I prioritizing first? Or what am I, maybe I'm prioritizing everything. So if I've got 2 upper body sessions, am I starting one off with push and the other one off with pull movements, for example?
Yeah.
When you kind of start with that as well, do you, obviously considering that the client's training age and training level, do you start with more machine exercises so there's more stability for that person, or do you start off with kind of first iterations of exercises being squats, and then you kind of from the following weeks there you either regress in iterations or you progress? Is that something that's considered?
So usually for most people, I want to do some kind of free weight hinge and press, maybe some kind of free weight squat. If we're not going to do a free weight squat, probably a free weight lunge. I think there is merit to teaching people how to move themselves in a 3D space. You don't need to go crazy with it. And if someone's quite new, I'm not going to go crazy with it. And then those exercises that are perhaps a little bit newer, a little bit more demanding, those free weight ones I'd put at the start. And if it's with someone who's really new, that would probably be when I would use sort of unofficial RIR. So I say to people, let's run to like an 8 out of 10 difficulty on this and then film it for me. And their 8 out of 10 is probably not going to be 2 reps in reserve, but I'd rather kind of clean up the form and then be like, right, your barbell squat is fantastic. Let's run that up kind of thing.
Yeah, I completely get what you mean, because if you've got someone that's never shoulder pressed before and they're trying to shoulder press and they're trying to go to a 10 out of 10, there's an equal likelihood that they get the rep or their arm snaps backwards that way.
Yeah.
Because they're so unstable and they're not sure how to perform the exercise. And there's obviously only a sort of certain path that we can do that movement in before things get really, really bad. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. But I dislike when people say you have to start with the barbell basics. You can't do anything else, because okay, how basic are they really? Well, you're involving multiple joints with somebody that's never even gone near resistance training before. Is it not a little bit easier to maybe pop them in a machine where they can only do sort of 1 or 2 things, rather than worrying about where's my arse going, what's happening with my knees, is my foot still attached to the floor, or is it in fact fucking over there?
Yeah. And of course, as well, you got to consider, like Luke mentioned, you got to consider the split. So if you're running, say, something where you're going to be doing some back work, doing the barbell basics of a barbell row, if you're doing that right next to a leg day, that's also going to involve a lot of spinal loading, a lot of low back loading. That's not going to be the best thing. So again, it's like assessing the client's needs. But in general, I like to have something there where they're learning how to press without some assistance. They're learning how to squat or lunge without some assistance. They're learning how to hinge without some assistance. If we can, if that doesn't work for them, then no worries. But I think just because of the potential injury prevention that you get from it. You know, I think if you're able to lunge, press, row, squat, do those kind of main movement patterns in a safe manner with yourself and some weight and move that safely, I think you're going to be in a pretty good spot. But again, I would agree, you know, with Luke, you don't need to SBD to grow. You don't need to do pull-ups when you're starting off. You know, you can do those machine things, and like you can start off with cuffed exercises, and you don't need to be like a gym bro for the first year of your training.
The good thing with starting off with those more free weight movements is that once you sort of know how to do those, you can generally apply that to pretty much any machine you get into.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think that to an extent, you're going to have to teach someone that, because if you start off with like Smith pressing and machine pressing, you're probably going to end up at some point giving them a dumbbell or a barbell. And I would rather teach them at the start when everything's novel, everything's new. You know, those sets are going to be, we don't need to go crazy high and we don't need to go crazy intense to get stimulus from that. So I'd rather teach them early than kind of like, oh, I've been Smith pressing for 6 months and now I dumbbell press and it's like 5 kilos each hand and my scapula hurts and I almost bent my arm backwards, you know.
And going back to what you said earlier about technique, is that's a really important thing, is making sure that foundational technique is there. Because if you try and push to the absolute limit, taking force reps and stuff like that, like your first couple of times in the gym, you are essentially learning how to do things quite poorly.
Yeah. And it's unnecessary. Like if you take someone in the gym who a week ago was on the couch eating Dominoes, they don't need to train like fucking Ronnie Coleman, like Branch Warren to like grow some biceps, you know? They don't need to be absolutely all in. And as well, yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to put that kind of pressure on them, run that kind of injury risk. And yeah, it's just a bit pointless.
I'll have you know, it's actually called Dominoes.
Oh, sorry, bro. I did get a Dominoes and I did tag Tom one time. So I'm basically coached by Tom now. All my gains go to him.
I saw him last weekend. Was it last weekend? No, the weekend before. And he was at the point of food where I was at like a couple of months ago. Like he's just looking at it like, I hate my life.
Yes, Tommy. I'm finally getting that.
Is this the Tom Taylor?
Big Tommy T, yeah.
Oh, he's a big lad.
Yeah,
I saw him in the gym once and I got scared, bro.
Oh, yeah, because he went to Nottingham Strong.
He did Nottingham Strong. Yes. Yeah.
Mate, he's so nice. He's so nice. He just, like, anyone he meets, he just hugs them, like, immediately. And he just consumes you because he's, like, 260 pounds. It's hilarious.
He's going to have the Nick Goff problem where whenever he does any lift, he's just written off for 4 months afterwards because he's so fucking strong.
Yeah, he is ridiculously strong.
Mad.
Like, what was he? I don't even know why he's benching. It must be for some sort of study, I guess.
He's
I don't
benching?
know.
No way.
Yeah, because he was benching like 3.5 plates for sets of 5 or something like that the other day.
That's pretty naughty. Was it? Were they clean?
Yeah, it's Tom. What do you mean?
Yeah, I thought so.
Are they clean? What a silly question. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. Let's stop talking about Dominoes. So after we've sort of chosen our priority exercises for each session, what would we say is going to be doing next? That's a really bad way to put it.
You're up, man.
Yeah, you're up.
Said my piece.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, man. We're going around.
Okay, so we chose our priority exercises. We've obviously got our split in place.
We're all going to have different processes.
So after that, I would say maybe look for some things that those big movements haven't ticked off, if you get what I mean. So if we've already done a press, okay, have we got some form of fly variant in there? It doesn't necessarily have to be every time we train chest, but at some point throughout the week, it makes sense to have one in there. Same sort of thing goes for, say, like a lying or seated leg curl at some point in the week, rather than, say, just doing hip hinges and then leg extension, not just squatting, etc.
I think a point you can take home with that as well, you can also look at a lot of crossover between exercises. So maybe I don't even know, we'll take the the view of hamstrings and their stabilizing abilities in the squat.
Oh fuck! Here we go. Here we go. Oh yes. Let's get juicy, boys.
No. But I'm just you can look at the exercises, and I can't jump ahead of myself with what we're talking about. But continue.
No. Please go on with that. I'm really excited.
Well, with looking at what you've already hit, and then comparing exercises, almost with, like, let's take the hamstrings for example. If you're doing a seated leg curl and then you're going into a hip hinge later in the exercise, what's really the point? Because you're ending up in that same position twice. And I think comparing what type of muscle actions going on. So let's say like a hip hinge and a seated leg curl. Yes, you are bringing your tibia closer to your femur during a leg curl. That's not necessarily happening in a hip hinge, but yet you're ending up in the same position. And I think considerations for positions you end up in and how the muscle moves should be considered when ordering and picking exercises in general.
Yeah, because just changing the order of you don't even need to do new exercises, but just changing the order to something which is going to be a little bit more advantageous can help you get so much more out of those movements. Like I was doing a client's check-in the other day, and I just rearranged a few things like based on stuff that I've learned or changed my mind on since I initially made that training program. But we've got no new exercises in, but you're still going to see some differences throughout that session.
Yeah, I think kind of once you've got like your prioritize lifts and you've looked at what you're not hitting, then it's kind of a case of just like filling out the rest of the split. Like looking at, okay, if we've got an upper body day, what upper body muscles am I missing that I currently haven't hit? And then as well, like John said, like the exercise order is also going to kind of come from that. So like, you know, if you're got an exercise that's hard in the short versus hard in the long, on the lengthened, are there certain lifts that are going to take away from others? Are there any lifts that we want to prioritize, like I already touched on? And then you've kind of got the split and all of the exercises laid out in front of you. And then Luke, where would you go from there?
So we've just chosen the exercises. We haven't chosen like rep range, sets, etc. Yeah. So I think an important thing is that we work across a variety of rep ranges, because there are some exercises which do not suit certain rep ranges very well. It may be all well and good that, you've heard 5 to 10 is the best rep range for hypertrophy on fucking TikTok or some bollocks. But go and do a set of 6 lateral raises. Let me know how your shoulder joint feels. Not very nice. So like for the vast majority of people, I will include stuff from around sort of 6 up to about that 20 mark, because we can go a little bit above that. But the issue comes when you get much beyond like that mark is the muscle burning like fuck, or am I just like, or am I close to failure? Because
I think as well, just being able to maintain the position correctly. Like, I don't know about you boys, but when you're starting to get to those higher rep ranges, 20, 25, like just sitting there is a bit of a hassle, to be honest.
True.
Like if you're doing a leg extension, you're gonna start letting go of the handles a bit more. Yeah, your hips are gonna start to shoot up. Maybe you're losing some of the rep range.
Bro, come on.
Yeah, there we go.
Get with it. Lock yourself in, man.
Yeah, true. I think like the higher you take the reps, the more you run the risk of like losing that accuracy. You know, the more that you're like just going to.
Because you don't want it bad enough.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Exactly.
Yeah, you see that a lot though, like in the gym, and it's something that I've been guilty of in the past massively. Is this is a set of 20, but actually I filmed the last one and it took me a minute, which was a set of 10, and I filmed this one and it took me a minute 10 because I just rushed all the reps.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Like you lose that control, you don't stay in that position anymore, and you're probably not going to get out of that set what you could have if you stuck to the desired tempo and controlled each and every rep.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
But don't do sets of 25 hip hinges. They suck. Mate, above 10 and I'm wrecked.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I Okay, on a compound, I could probably go up to 12, but I'm not going higher than 12.
15 to 20 on the hack is not fun.
Oh no! Oh,
I've done that a couple of times, and that's just cardio.
I don't think I could do that justice. I'm not going to lie. Just I don't think I could train that like well. If I'm honest, if I'm cards on the table, I just don't think I could do that well.
If I was in a diet, I could.
Really?
Yeah, because like I just literally from like set 2 of the first exercise, I'm like breathing proper heavy, and my face is like red, like I've got so many blood pressure issues.
Gotcha. I thought you meant like for some reason you were just like you skewed towards higher reps when you were dieting or whatever.
Yeah, bro, high reps to tone the muscle. You knew I was going there. You knew I was going there. No,
I'm trying to think.
I would keep the same sort of work in a fat loss phase or in a training or in a fat loss phase or in a muscle building phase, but you've just got to be a little bit more considerate of the amount of systemic fatigue that you're going to get from all of that, and like being able to do the same amount of volume might also be an issue, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
So we've got rep ranges. Sick.
Yeah, John, you're up. I mean, rep ranges kind of comes with the next part, but like, oh
well. Yeah, this is the part of the conversation that might get a bit heated, but anyway, what is also synonymous with the amount of reps you do is the amount of times that you repeat those reps. Okay, so with coming off your decision of the split will be that will kind of dictate how your volume will be spread across said exercises. You admit you're going to have more depending on what you focus on. I don't want to throw out any numbers, but where do you boys kind of start with volume? Just like, let's just take quads for example. It's just nice, easy. I know I would normally start around like 6 sets at the beginning of a mesocycle. I don't know about you boys.
Per week or per session?
Per week. I don't go above 5 for quads in a session.
I had 8 today, and that wasn't fun.
That's mad.
5 pendulum, 3 split squat. I finished on one of the sets of split squats. I posted this one on my story, so you'll see this absolute travesty. But basically, I finished the last rep. I dropped the dumbbell down, and then the working leg cramped, so I just like had to sprawl it out on the floor. It was great, mate. It was absolutely.
I'm loading your story right now.
Yeah, bro, it's so good. I would tend to start with how much are we sort of doing within a session. Like I wouldn't really do like 1 set for pecs in the entire session. I would stay a little bit higher than that, and like obviously the less exercises you are doing, the more you're probably going to have to do on each one. I think it's quite hard to throw out ballpark numbers because you've also got considerations of how close to failure is that person training. If you've got somebody who cannot train close to failure, they're probably going to have to do a little bit more volume in order to accrue those quote unquote effective reps, if you get what I mean. But just sort of where I'm at personally at the moment, like I think it was 11 sets for pecs on my push session. That was horrific. And then I've got 7 tomorrow or Saturday, depending on which day I decide to train, because I'm at the Physique Collective seminar and it's going to be a long day. So I might just train tomorrow. But yeah, that's horrific. So mine is going to be slightly different to the boys in the sense that I start about where they would start sort of for their entirety of their training block, and then add like 1 to 2 sets per body part a week. So I end up at quite a bit higher, which is not fun. Hence today's session.
Yeah. I think like picking volume for clients again is going to be very dependent on their needs, how advanced they are, how they train, what's the focus, all that stuff. In general, for larger muscle groups, probably between 6 to 8. And then for smaller muscle groups, normally around 10. For some people, maybe 8. Again, depends. Typically just more volume on those smaller muscle groups, like arms and delts, and then less volume on those larger muscle groups, pecs, back, quads, hams, stuff like that. And then the thing is, you just kind of adjust from there, like anything. I'd rather start things off where you are over recovered and under training, although you won't be, but I'd rather have you over recovered and be able to add on. Whereas if you are fucked from week 1, you can't really like where do you go from there? Do you put them in a deload and then kind of have to pull volume back? Like it's a real mess.
Yeah, you've got sort of individual considerations there with volume. Like there are outliers that just need to do like stupidly low or stupidly high amounts. Like I was talking to Lewis Jones today, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm doing like 2 or 3 sets a week for quads, like mental, like absolutely." And he's got ridiculous quads, and just
like 2 or 3 sets a week.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. It's absolutely crazy. And then like my calves on my biceps, I don't do much for, but they tend to be growing okay just because of how they are genetically.
Yeah, fair. It's again going to depend on the person, and like you kind of have to, once all your clients are like at a good stage of you're happy with execution, then it's like looking at their physique. How is it developing? What's responding? What's not responding? And then also kind of what I like to do is look at all your clients. So if you look at some online coaches, they'll just be like, all of your clients have developed a chest, but none of them have developed a back. Maybe you should reassess how you program people. So that's something that I always look at. I look at everyone and I'm like, okay.
That's so interesting.
Genuinely, because I've seen it a couple of times. I'll look at everyone and I'll be like, okay, do different people have different strong points, or is there a commonality between everyone here and like myself, for example? And the answer is so far no. So we're good, but it's still something that I look for.
I believe the term is meta-analysis.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
Meta-analysis of people's coaching clients.
But yeah, no, genuinely, like some coaches, I look at some of their clients, typically not the top guys, but there's just like similar lagging body parts between transformations, and it's always interesting to see.
Yeah, I see what you mean, to be fair. I do see what you mean. So what else have we got to cover?
I can't think. My brain is entirely brain fog.
Entirely fog.
Literally, man. To be fair, most days today, less food for me, so I'm pretty happy with that.
I love just having the same food every day. Like, it's so convenient.
The thing is, though, like I have food on training days. Since doing that, my training's just fucking exploded. Like having the food so crazy high on training days has been so good for
progression. Fair play. Yeah, so we started with the days that somebody has available to train and how that informs the split. Then from the split, which exercises would we go for first, and then sort of some accessory movements that fill in those gaps. Then the rep range and how we would look at things in terms of volume after that.
I feel like the only final thing is to say like intensifiers.
Yeah, that's literally just what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you boys set up tempo? Like, what's your approach to tempo?
Ooh.
Or is there much thought process that goes into it?
So I've reassessed how I think about this fairly recently, and I tend to just sort of do fairly similar for each movement, because if you've got somebody who's already trying to learn how to do the exercise and trying to be intense, and then you're telling them to do a 4-1-2-2 on this one and then a 3-1-6-7 on the fucking next one, they're like, what's going? Don't do that second tempo, that was just random numbers. So I think a good sort of baseline to experiment with would be something like a 3-1-2-1 or 3-1-1-1.
Yeah, like with most people, I kind of keep it the same. I have like compound tempo and an isolation tempo, and I'll like just make it really nice and simple for people. I'll say for everyone, control the negative, control the rep. If I'm standing behind you and I say stop at any point in that lift, you should be able to stop it. And then I might say, on isolation, spend a second at the top, spend a second at the bottom, and then on to the next rep. And then for a compound, I'll be like, just control the negative. And then if they're taking the piss with the bottom or taking the piss with the top, then I'll say something. But for most people, kind of starting off, I'll just say, lower it down for around 3 seconds. Doesn't have to be 3 seconds, just control it.
Yeah, and what you tend to see loads of time with people sort of taking the piss with not controlling the eccentric or bouncing out of that bottom part there is that they then get halfway up the rep and then just drop down immediately because they weren't actually doing the rep. It was just the rebound effectively from hitting the stopper there.
Literally,
the momentum.
Literally like elasticity.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good point actually. But yeah, generally tempo, I'm happy as long as you are in control of it. If you're what's moving the load, then fucking sound. Slow the eccentric down, keep some tension on the muscle, and we're going to be happy. And then when it comes to intensifiers, so I guess we can discuss sort of how we look at when we would add them, what ones tend to work well, and stuff like that.
So, actually, John, you go first. I've been talking for ages, bro. You go first, Johnny.
Come on.
The way I kind of go around intensifiers is oftentimes, I mean, with myself, it's kind of thrown into exercises where I don't necessarily enjoy it. So I just kind of want to get the volume in, get it over and done with. But however, the kind of approach I do take with some body parts, if I'm recovering from, let's say, an injury. So recently I've strained my left adductor. So I'm kind of I'm using intensifiers. So load doesn't end up too crazy heavy. Reps are in a sensible range where kind of blood flow can be brought in. Maybe range of motion can be slightly altered. But I think I don't like the approach of taking intensifiers too far in terms of compounds. I kind of like to keep them in terms of more like isolation exercises, if you would. So if it came to biceps, maybe triceps, or again, probably being a bit hypocritical here, but with the adductors, yes, they are a bigger muscle group, but I'm trying to rehabilitate them at the minute. So I'm kind of taking the approach of let's just do an intensifier. So at least I could do some work, a little bit of effective work, and then kind of come off that and do some extra rehab stuff.
I would say the most common intensifier I see used for compounds is like assisted or force reps.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is something that most people sort of traditionally write down, if that makes sense. It's just like, oh, one, maybe two assisted reps at the end of a set. If you've got somebody there who you trust to support you through that.
Yeah, assisted reps are an interesting one. I think, I think there's a time and a place. That's a whole nother discussion, though, to be fair. I don't want to open that can of worms. Maybe we'll do that next episode.
Yeah, maybe we can. Yeah, let's save that. We'll ask Dan about that actually, because that's something that he is a big fan of. Well, he's not a big fan of it, but he likes them a lot.
Fair.
Does them a fair bit. Yeah, some intensifiers that I've been doing recently as a UJAC is match rep sets, and they are absolutely horrific. So essentially the premise behind it is whatever reps you get on the first set, you then have to get on all of the following ones, say by rest pausing. So I would say as long as you're sort of above 10, it's going to be okay, but you've just got to bear in mind that we don't want to be doing like sets of one to get those reps up again. So I sort of start with somewhere between that 15 to 20 range, and then I'll get say 20 on the first set, and then I'll probably get like 18 on the second one, and then rest pause for another 2. And then that obviously, as that goes on, you get less reps on the first set, which means you might have to do more rest pauses. I have to do 3 rest pauses on my last set of cable curls yesterday, and I was like literally in so much pain. Not fun, but yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I feel like when you're picking intensifiers, so normally I'll start off without any intensifiers because straight sets are going to be superior. But if there's people that are low on time, that's probably going to be the main one where we're going to throw in intensifiers. Maybe just like if people like the feeling of them, especially if you're trying to bring up a body part, like if you're trying to bring up someone's biceps, having them get a crazy pump in them, for them, they feel fantastic. Like, oh yeah, this is really working. But yeah, so I normally start off with like how much volume do I want to get? Can I get it in there? If no, then intensifiers. And then the same thing when we're escalating volume, there'll be a roof where like I want to add more volume, but they don't have time, so let's add an intensifier. Yeah, normally it's just a time saver, to be honest.
Yeah, because how long does it take to do a rest pause? 30 seconds, as opposed to an extra 4 minutes for another set.
Yeah, exactly.
Between the time you rest and then do that set.
Yeah.
Sound? Boshed it, mate. All done.
Is that all we want to cover? I don't know how long we've been live for, so that might be a good point to end.
Like 40 minutes. So I reckon that is that's pretty sound. That was a hefty discussion, to be fair. Next week, I think, should be pretty good as well. It's going to be somewhat training related, but not as sort of training-y as this. But yeah, anyone that's listened to this and like wants more in-depth about one thing, then ask a question. We'll be happy to cover that sort of thing as well.
And it's a new month, so I'm sure we all have online coaching spaces. Wink, wink.
I was not expecting that.
With the marketing, bro. The marketing, bro.
Yeah, should we do the same deal as before, Jack?
Oh, what? Whoever gets to us first, whoever fills out the consultation form first.
No. So inquire with everyone, and then whoever gets back to them first, just go with them.
Yeah, all right. So apply to online coaching from all of us, and then whoever responds first, they're who you get. That's a good way to pick a coach.
Or if you think Jack and I are twats, then just inquire with John.
To be fair, yeah, John's going to get a fuckload of clients off of us, making him look like a god in comparison. The most
yeah, John's just sitting there chilling. He's like being respectful, and we're just horrific.
To his two sons arguing, bickering.
Yeah, he's just like stroking his beard.
Yeah. All I'm saying is I've got pretty good reply times.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
He secretly sat there on like 240 clients or something.
Right.
Right, don't inquire with Luke because he gets bored of you mid-conversation. Just saying.
No, I get bored of you, Jack.
Yeah, I inquired. You imagine?
Oh, right, let's call it a day there. We don't want to drain people on too much, but hopefully you guys found that useful. And as I said, feel free to drop us a message if you've got any future questions or any more questions on what we sort of discussed there. But hopefully that was helpful for you lot. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, I nearly ended the meeting. Wait, let me close. There we go.
I'm going to have to edit that out.